So, here we are in our first module in part one on ancient China. We're reading some of the Analects of Confucius, and then three poems from the Tao Te Ching, which is a collection of philosophical poems attributed to Lao Tzu. So, first, Confucius. Confucius is one of the great sages from ancient China. He lived in the 5th century BCE, so that's about 500 years before Jesus' birth. That is where BCE turns into CE in the timeline. So, the West calls this figure Confucius. However, in the original Chinese, his name is Kongzi. Notice that the other Chinese author we're reading in this module also has a zi ending to their name, Lao Tzu. That zi, Z-I, at the end of their names is an honorific, and that just means that it's used to designate them as masters or master teachers. So Confucius, or Kongzi, was mostly a teacher who traveled from province to province. His analects, now analects can also be defined as sayings or short philosophical extracts. His analects were part of conversations with his students, and it was his students who eventually recorded them. You'll notice that many of the analects begin with the phrase, "the master said." So we are only reading a few of his analects. You're only responsible for the ones that are listed in the reading. So look at the uploaded PDF file. Analect 1.1 is the first analect from book 1 of Confucius's collected analects. There were up to 20 books. Analect 2.1 is the first analect in book 2 of his analects. So, some important things to remember as we're studying Confucius. Confucius often talks about respecting one's elders and practicing what is called filial piety. Filial piety basically means being a devoted son or a devoted child to your parents. Confucius also talks about the importance of learning and the importance of studying texts from the past. He talks about the importance of respecting social roles and social hierarchies and in participating in rituals in one's community. Confucius also has many analects about how to be a good leader, and he basically argues that a good ruler is a virtuous ruler who sets a good example for his people. Confucius is a very important figure in Chinese history, and his influence is still recognizable today. The second author we will read is Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu literally means old master. So, like Confucius, Lao Tzu, the old master, was also a traveling sage and teacher. He composed a collection of poems known as the Tao Te Ching, which became the foundation of the philosophy of Taoism. Now, Taoism has some important differences from Confucianism. While Confucius believed in taking effective action to improve one's circumstances and focused on, working hard to improve oneself, the Taoist philosophy advocates being passive and just letting whatever will happen, happen. The Taoists also believe that we should forget about social distinctions and go back to a pure and natural state of being. In one of the poems, Lao Tzu states that highest good is like water, meaning the best way to be is like water, very fluid and adaptable, and not to struggle against other forces, but to adapt. The poems in the Tao Te Ching are mysterious, and I'm interested in seeing what you think they mean. There is no one right answer, so show me your interpretive ability in those discussion board questions. So here's the program. First, you read the text, then answer the discussion board questions. Read Confucius first, read the instructor's material about Confucius, and then answer the discussion questions. Do the same for Lao Tzu. Read the 3 poems from the Tao Te Ching, answer the discussion questions about those poems in your own words, and then you're ready to move on to the VoiceThread recording at the end of part 1. So for this, you just record a 1-minute response to the question. This is not a formal presentation. This is a very brief verbal response to the questions I pose. So don't read from a script. You can use some notes if you need to, but just talk to me in your response. These activities on the VoiceThread are just between the student and the instructor. They're not visible to other students. We will have a later presentation where you will be presenting your response to a question to the whole class, but that's not until Module 5. So for now, this is just between you and me. Answer the questions in your own words and just speak in your natural voice. So, if you have any questions, remember I'm always available via email. I'm at sokowski@desu.edu. So that's S, my first initial, and my last name Sokowski, ssokowski@desu.edu. You can also find a link to my email under the My Instructor tab on our Blackboard site. So I look forward to reading what you think of these fascinating texts. Also, remember to complete the introduction discussion board first so we can get to know you. And I'll see you on the discussion board.